First Contact Protocol. The Aurelian Border Monitoring Station Epsilon 9 was designed to be boring. Its sensors swept the darkness of interstellar space methodically, detecting the familiar signatures of mining vessels, freighters, and the occasional diplomatic shuttle. For 300 cycles, nothing truly unexpected had triggered its alerts. Until today. Senior observer Calith's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession as the warning klaxon shattered the station's tranquility. His pale blue skin flushed a deeper azure with alarm as he studied the readout. Director Naven, he called, voice steady despite his rising anxiety. Unknown vessel detected at the edge of Sector 7. Configuration, unfamiliar. Director Naven glided across the monitoring chamber, her ceremonial robes of office billowing around her slender form. The Aurelian Confederation prided itself on peaceful expansion and diplomacy, but the border stations remained vigilant. Too many species had emerged from their home systems with conquest in their hearts. Classification, she asked, leaning forward to examine the holographic display. Unknown, Director. But the energy signature suggests significant power generation, and the whole configuration. Calith's voice faltered. It appears to be a warship, heavily armed. Naven's breath caught. Origin. System not in our database. Trajectory suggests it originated from Sector 42B. The director's eyes widened. The dead zone. Nothing sentient has ever emerged from that region. The vessel is maintaining a direct course toward Confederation space. Current velocity suggests arrival at Epsilon 9 in approximately 6 hours. Naven's lower hands made the gesture of contemplation as her upper pair activated the emergency communications array. Alert High Command. First Contact Protocol Alpha. And Calith. Yes, Director. Pray this visitor comes in peace. Within 3 hours, the Aurelian High Command had assembled an emergency session. The holographic chamber aboard the Confederation flagship Harmonious Intent buzzed with agitated conversation as military and political leaders from 17 worlds debated the proper response. High Commander Jex, his scales gleaming with polished insignia, silenced the chamber with a sharp gesture. The unknown vessel continues its approach. Our sensors confirm it carries weapon systems unlike anything in our database. Power signatures suggest capabilities far beyond our defensive measures. Diplomat General Loreth, the oldest member of the Council, leaned forward. Have they responded to communications? Negative. We've transmitted first contact protocols on all frequencies. No response. Minister Thal, representative of the Aurelian homeworld, rose from her seat. Then we must assume hostile intent. I propose immediate defensive positioning of all available fleet assets and risk-provoking conflict with an unknown species. Loreth countered. This could be a cultural misunderstanding. Perhaps their communication systems are incompatible with ours. Or perhaps, Jex said grimly, they have no interest in talking. The debate raged as the massive viewscreen displayed the approaching vessel. Its design was unlike anything in Confederation records. Angular and predatory, with obvious weapon emplacements along its obsidian hull. Scorch marks and impact scars suggested it had seen combat before. Defensive positioning only, Minister Thal finally decided. No provocative actions, but I want every ship ready to engage if necessary. As the Aurelian Defense Fleet moved into formation, the mysterious vessel maintained its course, silent and implacable. Captain Ilara Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Vigilant, Earth's most advanced warship, watching the alien fleet scramble into defensive positions. Her dark eyes reflected the tactical display as Lieutenant Commander Rice provided updates. Aurelian vessels forming a standard defensive perimeter. Captain. Their weapon systems are powered but not targeting. Looks like a cautious welcome. Chen nodded, tucking the strand of black hair behind her ear. Any change in their communications? Still broadcasting the same first contact package. Language samples, mathematical sequences, cultural information. And we're recording everything. Yes, Captain. Intelligence will have plenty to analyze. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Intelligence already had decades of analysis. Humanity had been watching the Aurelian Confederation for nearly 50 years, ever since the first stealth probes detected their expansion into neighboring systems. Earth had learned from the mistakes of countless science fiction stories. When humanity finally ventured beyond the solar system, they did so quietly, observing before revealing themselves. The strategy had paid dividends. Humanity now had extensive files on 17 spacefaring civilizations, none of which knew that humans existed. Until today. Time to arrival at their station, Chen asked. 30 minutes, Captain. She took a deep breath. Open a direct channel. All frequencies. The bridge fell silent as Chen stepped forward. This is Captain Ilara Chen of the United Earth Ship Vigilant. We come in peace, but with urgent news. Request permission to approach and establish diplomatic contact. For several long moments, silence reigned. Then the communications officer looked up in surprise. Captain, we're receiving a response. Audio and visual. On screen. The view screen shifted to show an alien face, blue-skinned with 4 large eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Ceremonial markings traced elegant patterns across a high forehead. This is Minister Thal of the Aurelian Confederation. Your appearance in our space is unexpected. You are not in our records. That was intentional, Minister, Chen replied calmly. Humanity has preferred to observe before making contact. We apologize for any alarm our arrival has caused. The alien's upper eyes narrowed. Your vessel appears to be a warship, Captain Chen. This sends a concerning message for a peaceful first contact. Chen nodded. Under normal circumstances, we would have sent a diplomatic vessel, but circumstances are not normal. We have detected a threat approaching Confederation space, one we believe you are not prepared to face. Minister Thal's lower eyes blinked rapidly. A threat? What manner of threat requires a military first contact? One that has already destroyed 3 civilizations in neighboring sectors, Chen replied solemnly. We've been tracking it for 5 years. Our projections show it will reach Aurelian space within 2 months. We've come to warn you and offer assistance. Thal's skin paled to a lighter blue. These are serious claims, Captain. Do you have evidence? We do. With your permission, we request docking at your station to share what we know. The minister was silent for a long moment. Proceed to coordinates we are transmitting. You may dock at Epsilon 9. But be warned, Captain. Any hostile action will be met with the full force of the Confederation fleet. Chen nodded. Understood, Minister. We come as friends and potential allies against what's coming. You'll understand our caution when you see what we've discovered. As the transmission ended, Lieutenant Commander Rice approached. Think they'll believe us, Captain. Chen's expression grew grim. They will once they see the recordings from the Arcturus outpost. No one could witness that destruction and remain skeptical. She turned to face her bridge crew. This is what we trained for. First official contact with an alien civilization. Let's hope it goes better than the simulations, Rice muttered. It has to, Chen replied. Because what's coming from the darkness won't negotiate, and humanity can't face it alone. The docking procedure at Epsilon 9 proceeded with tense precision. The Aurelian station, an elegant structure of curved spires and gleaming blue-white metal, dwarfed the human warship despite the Vigilant's impressive size. Chen led a small delegation through the airlock. Herself, Lieutenant Commander Reyes, Science Officer Dr. Patel, and Diplomatic Specialist Torres. They were met by an Aurelian security detachment led by a tall, imposing figure with ceremonial armor and grim determination in all 4 eyes. I am Security Director Valeth, the Aurelian announced. You will surrender all weapons before proceeding. Chen nodded to her team, who placed their sidearms in the provided containment field. We understand your caution, Director. Follow me. The High Command awaits. The humans were escorted through corridors of sweeping architecture, passing Aurelians who stopped to stare at the first humans they had ever seen. Chen noted the curious mixture of fear and fascination in their expressions. The conference chamber was a circular room dominated by a large holographic projector. Minister Thal was present, along with several military officials and what appeared to be scientific advisors. "Captain Chen," Thal greeted, "your arrival has caused considerable concern throughout the Confederation." "That was not our intention, Minister, but we bring information that could not wait for diplomatic niceties." Chen nodded to Dr. Patel, who stepped forward with a data crystal. "With your permission, we'd like to share what we've discovered." After a security scan, the crystal was inserted into the Aurelian systems. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a beautiful ringed planet surrounded by orbital stations. "This is Arcturus Outpost," Chen explained, "a human scientific research station at the edge of our explored space. 3 months ago, it detected unusual energy signatures approaching from the galactic rim. The hologram shifted to show a massive, shapeless darkness moving through space, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. At first, we thought it might be a sensor malfunction or an unusual stellar phenomenon," Chen continued. "Then this happened. The recording showed the darkness splitting into hundreds of smaller entities, each moving with obvious purpose toward the human outpost. The orbital stations attempted to communicate, then to defend themselves. The darkness engulfed them without slowing. Surface installations fired weapons that seemed to disappear into the void without effect. One by one, they were surrounded and simply ceased to exist. The entire planet's surface was methodically swept clean of all human presence in under 6 hours. The chamber was silent as the recording ended with the planet itself beginning to show signs of environmental collapse. "We call them the Void," Chen said quietly. "They've since consumed 2 other inhabited systems, non-human civilizations that we had been observing but had not yet contacted. In each case, the pattern was identical. Total eradication of all technological civilization." Minister Thal's voice was barely audible. "And you believe they're coming here next?" "Yes. Their trajectory is clear. The Aurelian Confederation is in their path, and you have numerous heavily developed worlds. You would be a feast for them." High Commander Jex stepped forward. "If these, Void, are so powerful, what do you propose? Why warn us at all?" Chen met his gaze steadily. "Because in the last encounter, we discovered something. Conventional weapons are useless, but we've developed experimental technology that can disrupt their energy patterns. It's not perfect, but it's a start." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Humanity cannot fight this enemy alone. Neither can the Aurelian Confederation. But together, with a united front, we might have a chance." "An alliance?" Thal asked incredulously. "With a species we've just met, one that admits to spying on us for decades?" "Not just with humanity," Chen replied. "With all spacefaring civilizations in this sector. The Void doesn't discriminate. It consumes all advanced life forms. Our survival depends on standing together." The chamber erupted in debate as the Aurelian leadership argued among themselves. Chen waited patiently, knowing that the horror they had witnessed would eventually overcome their suspicion. Finally, Minister Thal raised her hands for silence. "Captain Chen, we will need to verify this information independently." "Of course. We anticipated that. We're prepared to escort an Aurelian vessel to the edge of the devastation zone. You can see for yourself." High Commander Jex stepped forward. "I will lead this expedition personally." Thal nodded slowly. "If what you say proves true, Captain, then the Confederation owes you a debt for this warning. And," she hesitated, "we would be open to discussing this alliance you propose." Chen bowed slightly. "Thank you, Minister. The Vigilant stands ready to depart at your convenience." As the meeting adjourned, Lieutenant Commander Reyes moved closer to Chen. "Phase 1 complete, Captain. They're listening." "Phase 1 was the easy part," Chen replied quietly. "Now we have to prove we can actually fight these things. And that's a battle we're still not sure we can win." Reyes glanced at the Aurelian officials conferring urgently across the room. Do you think they'll be ready for what we're about to show them? Chen's expression was grim. No one is ever ready to see what the void leaves behind, but they need to understand what we're facing, because this is just the beginning. As they prepared to return to their ship, Chen watched the Aurelians with a mixture of hope and concern. Humanity had spent decades observing from the shadows, building their defenses and planning for eventual contact. Now that plan had been accelerated by necessity. The coming days would determine whether this hasty alliance would be strong enough to face the darkness that hungered for them all. The shadow beyond. The journey to the devastation zone took 3 days at maximum sustainable speed. The Vigilant led the way, with the Aurelian vessel Swift Justice following in formation. High Commander Jex had brought his flagship and 2 escort vessels, a sign of both caution and the seriousness with which the Confederation was treating the human warning. Captain Chen stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak by. Humanity had developed faster than light travel decades ago, but had kept their technological progress hidden from watching eyes. Now that secrecy was being cast aside by necessity. Approaching the outer boundary of the Lyricus system, Lieutenant Commander Reyes announced, dropping to sublight in 30 seconds. Chen nodded. All hands to alert status. Weapons systems on standby. The stars shifted from streaks back to points as the Vigilant decelerated. The Aurelian vessels emerged from FTL moments later, taking up defensive positions. Open a channel to Commander Jex. The Aurelian commander appeared on screen, his expression guarded. Captain Chen, your navigation has been precise. I see nothing unusual on our sensors. You won't from this distance, Chen replied. The void doesn't register on conventional scanners until it's too late. We need to move closer to the 4th planet. That's where the colony was located. Jex's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A gesture Chen had learned indicated skepticism. Very well. We will follow your lead, but remain at combat readiness. As the small fleet approached the inner system, Science Officer Patel approached Chen's command chair. Captain, preliminary scans confirm what we expected. The biosphere disruption has accelerated since our last observation. Chen nodded grimly. Show me. The main screen shifted to display the 4th planet of the Lyricus system. What had once been a verdant world with sprawling forests and vast oceans now appeared sickly and gray. Dark patches spread across the surface like infections. What are we seeing, Dr. Patel? Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. The void doesn't just consume technological civilizations, Patel explained, loud enough for the bridge crew to hear. It begins a systematic breakdown of complex biological systems afterward. This planet had a thriving ecosystem and a population of approximately 3 million colonists from the Centauri Collective. Now it's dying, Chen finished. The comm system chimed. Captain, incoming transmission from the Swift Justice. Commander Jex's face appeared, his blue skin noticeably paler. Our sensors confirm a planetary-scale ecological collapse in progress. There are no signs of the Centauri colonies our records indicated should be here. I'm sending coordinates for a geosynchronous orbit over what was their primary settlement, Chen replied. You'll want to see this up close. As the ship's established orbit over the designated location, the devastation became unmistakable. Where a city of elegant crystal spires had once stood, only foundations remained. No rubble, no debris, just empty outlines of where structures had been. It's as if the buildings were dissolved, one of the Aurelian science officers remarked, her voice carrying over the open channel. That's exactly what happened, Dr. Patel confirmed. The void consumes matter completely, converting it to energy that it absorbs. It leaves no waste, no remains, just absence. Commander Jex requested permission to send a shuttle to the surface. Chen advised against it, but understood their need to verify independently. The Aurelian shuttle descended through the atmosphere, transmitting data in real time. The surface was worse than the orbital view suggested. Nothing moved in the ghostly outlines of the colony. Sensors detected toxic compounds in the soil and air, byproducts of the void's consumption process. "There's something else you should see," Chen told Jex. "Something we discovered only after extensive analysis." The Vigilant transmitted data to the Aurelian vessels, microscopic images of soil samples taken from affected worlds. "The breakdown continues at the microscopic level," Dr. Paddle explained. "These nanoscale structures are artificial, left behind by the void. They continue the conversion process long after the main entity has moved on." Commander Jex was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had lost its skepticism. "How do you fight something like this?" "Return to your ship, Commander," Chen replied. "I'll show you." Once the shuttle had returned and the fleet had moved to a safer distance, Chen ordered a demonstration. The Vigilant launched what appeared to be a simple probe toward the planet's surface. "We call this a boundary enforcer," she explained to the watching Aurelians. "It generates an energy field that disrupts the cohesion of the void's component parts." The probe descended to the planet's surface, coming to rest in what had once been the central plaza of the colony. It activated with a pulse of blue-white energy that spread outward in concentric rings. Where the energy touched the ground, the gray discoloration receded slightly. Readings showed the nanoscale conversion structures becoming dormant. "It's not a cure," Chen acknowledged, "but it slows the process and creates a perimeter the void cannot easily cross. We've developed larger versions capable of protecting significant areas." Commander Jex's response was immediate. "And you have weapons based on this technology?" "We do. Limited in range and power, but effective. The problem is scale. The void entities we've encountered so far appear to be scouts. Our intelligence suggests the main body is vastly larger." Jex was silent for a moment. "You need production capacity. Resources. Yes. More than humanity can provide alone. And alliances with other spacefaring species." "Precisely. The Aurelian Confederation has diplomatic relations with 11 other civilizations. We need all of them." The commander's 4 eyes fixed on Chen with new intensity. "You've been planning this for some time." Chen didn't flinch from his gaze. "Since we first detected the void 5 years ago. We've been developing countermeasures and studying potential allies. Your confederation has the diplomatic infrastructure we need. While you have the technology," Jex concluded. "A convenient arrangement." "A necessary one," Chen corrected. "We could have kept hidden, Commander. Watched from the shadows as the void consumed your worlds one by one, buying ourselves time. Instead, we're here, offering what help we can." Before Jex could respond, alarms blared across both ships. "Multiple contacts," Lieutenant Commander Rice shouted, emerging from the dark side of the planet's moon. The view screen showed a swarm of amorphous black shapes, each roughly the size of a shuttle, moving with unsettling coordination toward the small fleet. "Void Scouts," Chen said, rising from her chair. "Battle stations. Deploy countermeasures." The Vigilance weapons systems came online, not the conventional railguns and missile launchers visible on the hull, but concealed emitters that glowed with the same blue-white energy as the probe. "Commander Jex, your conventional weapons will be ineffective," Chen transmitted urgently. "Pull back to minimum safe distance. Let us handle this." To his credit, the Aurelian commander assessed the situation quickly. "Negative, Captain. We stand together." The void entities accelerated, splitting into smaller groups to target each ship. They moved with intelligence and purpose, selecting approach vectors that minimized exposure to the Vigilant's unfamiliar weapons. "They're learning," Dr. Patel noted with scientific detachment that belied the danger, "adapting to our countermeasures." The Vigilant fired its disruption beams, catching the lead entities in coruscating fields of energy. The Void Scouts writhed and dispersed, their cohesion temporarily disrupted. But there were dozens more approaching from all sides. "Divert auxiliary power to the destruction field," Chen ordered. "Create a defensive perimeter." The human warship pulsed with energy, a spherical barrier expanding outward. Several void entities caught within it dispersed into inert particles. The Aurelian vessels, despite Chen's warning, opened fire with their conventional weapons. Energy beams and projectiles disappeared into the dark entities without effect. "Damn it," Chen muttered. "Rise. Extend our field to cover the swift justice. They're going to get themselves killed." The Vigilant maneuvered closer to the Aurelian flagship, its defensive field stretching to encompass the alien vessel. Just in time, 3 Void Scouts had surrounded the swift justice and begun to attach themselves to its hull. Where the disruption field touched them, they recoiled and dispersed. "Captain, the field can't extend to the escort vessels," Rise reported tensely. Chen watched in horror as one of the Aurelian escorts was engulfed by a swarm of void entities. Its shields flared and died. Hull plating began to dissolve visibly. The entire ship seemed to waver like a mirage. "Transfer emergency protocols to their systems," Chen ordered. "Now." The Vigilance communications officer worked frantically, bypassing security to upload the human countermeasure specs directly to the Aurelian vessel's computers. On screen, the dying ship suddenly pulsed with blue-white energy, a desperate, improvised version of the human disruption field. It wasn't properly calibrated, but it bought them time. "The escort vessel is losing structural integrity," Dr. Petal reported. "They need immediate extraction." Chen made a split-second decision. "Drop our aft shields. Tractor them in." "Captain, that will expose us." "Do it." The Vigilance seldom used tractor system engage, creating a corridor of force between the ships. The damaged Aurelian vessel was pulled toward the human ship's shuttle bay, trailing particles of dissolving hull material. 2 Void Scouts followed, rushing toward the opening in the Vigilance defenses. "Close the gap as soon as they're in," Chen ordered, then hit the ship-wide comm. "Security teams to Shuttle Bay 3. Containment protocols." The Aurelian vessel scraped into the shuttle bay moments before emergency force fields slammed into place. The pursuing void entities collided with the restored shields, temporarily disoriented. "Target those 2 with focused disruption beams," Chen commanded. The Vigilance weapons found their mark, and the entities dispersed into harmless particles. Across the battlefield, the remaining Aurelian escort was implementing the emergency countermeasures with greater success, having learned from the first ship's experience. Commander Jex's flagship had maneuvered back within the Vigilance protective field. For 15 tense minutes, the battle continued. The Void Scouts tested the human countermeasures, probing for weaknesses, but ultimately began to retreat. "They're withdrawing," Rise reported with cautious relief, returning to the dark side of the moon. "Maintain battle stations," Chen ordered. They could be regrouping. The bridge doors opened, and a security officer entered. "Captain, we've evacuated the Aurelian crew from their vessel. 27 survivors, including their commander. The ship it's dissolving, ma'am, even in the protected bay." Chen nodded grimly. "Seal off that section. Full containment protocols." She turned to the communications officer. "Open a channel to Commander Jex." The Aurelian commander's face appeared on screen. His normally blue skin was ashen, and a wound on his upper right arm leaked purple fluid. "Commander, are you all right?" Chen asked. "I am functional, Captain Chen." His voice was steady despite his appearance. "My crew reports we have lost 38 personnel on the escorts. Without your intervention, it would have been all of us." "I regret we couldn't save everyone," Chen said sincerely. "We have 27 survivors from the Dauntless aboard." Jex's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "You risked your ship to save them." "Of course we did. Even though you knew what those entities could do to your vessel." Chen met his gaze. "That's what allies do, Commander." A moment of understanding passed between them. "Yes," Jex said finally. "Allies." He straightened, wincing slightly from his injury. "Captain Chen, I will be transmitting a full report to the Confederation High Command with my strongest recommendation for an immediate alliance with Earth. What we witnessed here, the Aurelian Confederation cannot face it alone." Nor can humanity, Chen acknowledged. But together, with the other civilizations, we have a chance. The void will return, Jex stated. Yes, in greater numbers. This was just another scouting party. Chen's expression hardened. But now we know our countermeasures work, and we can improve them. Share them. A united front, Jex nodded, against the darkness. As the small fleet regrouped and prepared to return to Aurelian space, Captain Chen knew this was only the beginning. The battle had been won, but the war was just starting. Centuries of separate development among the stars had kept civilizations apart, distrustful of one another. Now that isolation would end, not through peaceful exploration as humanity had once hoped, but through desperate necessity against an enemy that threatened all life. In the shuttle bay, Chen met with the Aurelian survivors, including the escort vessel's captain, a young officer named Talith. Despite his injuries, he stood at attention when Chen entered. Captain Chen, he greeted formally. My crew and I owe you our lives. You fought bravely, Chen replied. And now you understand what we're facing. Talith nodded solemnly. I never imagined such an enemy. Few did. That's why we need to spread the warning and the knowledge to fight back. The young Aurelian gazed at her with all four eyes. The histories of many species, including ours, speak of guardians who arise in times of great darkness. Perhaps that is to be humanity's role. Chen had never thought of it that way. Humanity had hidden in the shadows, building their defenses, watching and learning. Now they were stepping into the light, not as conquerors or even explorers, but as protectors. Perhaps, she acknowledged, but not alone. Every civilization brings unique perspectives, technologies, insights. We'll need them all. As the Vigilant and the remaining Aurelian vessels set course for Confederation space, Chen returned to the bridge. The stars stretched into lines as they accelerated to FTL. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Rice approached with a data tablet. Intelligence has finished analyzing the battle data. The Void Scouts exhibited 17% more coordination than in previous encounters. They're adapting, Chen noted. Yes, and there's something else. The main body we've been tracking has changed course. It's accelerating. Chen took the tablet, studying the projected course with growing concern. They know we can hurt them now. They're responding. The question is, Rice said quietly, do we have enough time to prepare? Chen looked out at the streaking stars, thinking of the 27 Aurelians aboard her ship, the beginning of what would need to become the greatest alliance the galaxy had ever seen. We'll make time, she said firmly. We have to.